Joe Reynolds, Marcia, I can see now. Oh, brilliant. The comments are starting to come through now. This is fab. I was a bit worried there. I thought we're sat here on my own. Sue, Deborah, Lindsay, all saying hi. Can you all hear me? That's the main thing. Linda from Burnley, hi. I can see Stephanie, Jane, Sue, all saying hello and here. Lots of comments all flashing through at the moment now. I can see who's just said that to me. Joanne, hi from Staffordshire. Can hear me loud and clear. Oh, thanks, Karen. Right, let me take this down. So first of all, let me just say, I want to say thank you to Maker Superstore for inviting me to be part of their May is for Making campaign. I can see lots of others. Maker Superstore is saying, hi, Ashley. Yes, can hear loud and clear. Brilliant. Okay, beautiful. That's fab. Yeah, so just want to say thanks to Makers for inviting me to be part of their May is for Making campaign. So tonight I'm going to be making, it's a really, really simple project, and I'm going to be doing it in fabric and paper. So I'm going to be making a little bookmark. Now I'm going to be using, let me just flick cameras. So I'm going to be using the ScanNCut SDX 2200 Disney machine, and I'm going to be using the fabric mat, which is the mat with the gold strap across the bottom, and I'm going to be using the fabric blade. Please forgive me if you are asking me any questions. Things are flashing up so much in front of me now that I'm struggling to keep up, and I know I'm missing loads of names. But I've just seen one from Sandra saying, hello, Ashley and everyone, and sat with a cuppa in the warm. Don't blame you. It's been foul, hasn't it, the weather today here in the UK. Anyway, I digress. So fabric mat, fabric blade. I'll show you what I'm making. So I'm making this simple little bookmark. So let me just try and find a book. It would be handy, wouldn't it, to show you. This is basically just my operation manual for my sewing machine. But basically, it's a simple little fabric project, shouldn't take us too long, and it just slides over the corner of your page, and then when you close your book, it keeps your place for you. Now, this is the size that I'm going to be making tonight. So you're going to need, if you want to make this, sorry about the banging of the drawers, you need 3 squares effectively, which I'm going to cut with the ScanNCut. And these were all cut at 4 inches. However, you can make it any size you want. Now, I just want to show you this one. This has been done in the same fabric, but this I cut at 4.5 by 4.5, so you can see the difference in size. Again, it's entirely up to you. You know, you may have a smaller book and you might want to use the 4 by 4. You may have a bigger book, you might want to use the 4.5. You may just prefer the bigger one, I don't know. But this is what we're going to make. Then, in addition to that, if for any reason you don't sew, I'm going to show you how to make it in paper. You don't need a ScanNCut at all to make this. You just need a piece of paper that's square, but I'll show you how to do that after we've done the fabric one. So, fabric mat, fabric blade, and I've got 2 pieces of fabric here. So my bigger piece of fabric is going to be for my back and my front, and then this piece of fabric is going to be for the corner. So I'm going to show you how to cut it with the ScanNCut. I'm going to attempt to sew it with the sewing machine. I've got all the cameras going. I've got my AirPods in for the microphone. You know, what can go wrong? Quite frankly, if it's alive with me, anything. So anybody got any quick questions before I start? And I was going to tell you something and it's completely gone out of my head now, so I'm really sorry. So while I'm waiting to see if there's any questions, I'm just going to take the plastic sheet, the protective cover off my mat. So I'm sorry if it makes a hideous noise. Actually, this one's not too bad. The one on my other mat makes a kind of screeching sound. So I'm going to load both pieces of fabric onto the mat at the same time because these are obviously only small pieces. So this is a great scrap buster. Or for anybody that's new to sewing, this is a good little project because you can just buy some fat quarters. This fabric that I'm using is from the fat quarter bundle that was available on Maker's Superstore website. Not sure whether it's still available, but I know they have got a couple of fat quarters on there, different designs. So, you know, things like this are great for fat quarters. Right, I've just seen a question from Rose that says, I have the CM900, what will be the difference, please? So basically, if you're cutting this with a CM900, Rose, I would suggest that you get yourself an old mat and use the high-tack fabric support sheet that normally comes with all ScanNCut machines. It's a 12 by 12 and it's a kind of green colour. And you peel the backing off and it sits on your mat and it just makes your mat super sticky. And then the green acts as like the protective paper to stop things from sticking on it. So doing it that way, just use your regular blade and obviously do a test cut to find out what blade setting and blade pressure works best for your machine. Sandra's saying, are the fat quarters from Makers? This one that I'm using, the grey and yellow, was a fat quarter bundle that Makers did sell. It's what I've been doing the quilt along with. But as I say, I'm not sure whether it's in stock or not at the moment. But last time I looked, there was, I think it's some kind of stripy fabric. They've got a nice fat quarter bundle that's in stripes. So that would work. Or if you are a sewer and you've got some scraps, just use whatever you've got. So let's make a start. So I'm going to put this fabric right side up. Now this is untreated fabric. This is just as the fat quarter came. I've just chopped a piece off. So it's got no stiffening on it. It's got nothing ironed onto the back. It's not been prepared in any way apart from I've given it a quick iron. So I'm just going to pop that onto my fabric mat and just burnish it down. Now, I personally, when I'm using my fabric mat, I tend to start in the middle and don't know if you can see this, and you know, push the fabric outwards, and then I go all over. Then I'm just going to bring my other piece in. This is the piece that's going to form the triangle section, and I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to start in the middle and just push it out and stick it down onto this fabric mat. So what's Rose saying? Thanks, I bought mine second hand. I should get one then to do fabric. Thank you. If you didn't get one with your machine, Rose, Maker's Superstore, I'm sure, do sell them. It's called the High Tack Fabric Support Sheet. And hopefully somebody on here will probably put you a link to it or something like that. Right, so I've got my fabric mat, I've got my two pieces of fabric, and I've got my fabric blade, okay? You know it's the fabric blade because it's got the kind of tan gold colour which matches the mat. Veronica is saying, I have an SDX 900. Will I need to buy a special blade for this? It's new and I've never used it before. Okay, Veronica, I would say if you're going to use fabric, just get yourself a blade and keep that blade specifically for fabric. Because you know what, you've probably heard the saying, haven't you, that you wouldn't use your scissors to cut fabric. You wouldn't use your fabric scissors to cut paper. It's the same principle. You could use the same holder, just keep a blade completely separately, and on the little plastic container that your blade comes in. When I had my CM machine, I used to write fabric on it, and then I also used to keep those little plastic containers, and I had one that said old or dull or blunt, and I used to keep those for cutting things like non-shedding glitter card, that kind of thing. Carol's saying, I've just received my SDX 2200. What should I be using? Okay, Carol, if you've got the fabric mat and the fabric blade, you need to use that. If you haven't, again, it's the same as I said to Rose. If you don't want to buy the fabric mat or blade, you're going to need to get yourself a spare mat of some description, either a low tack or an old mat, and buy yourself the high tack support sheet. But personally, if you've got the auto blade machine, I honestly, seriously would invest in the fabric mat and the fabric blade. It's a whole lot easier cutting fabric with this mat and this blade than it is messing about with the high tack support sheets, but as I said, you know, if you've only got a CM model, I appreciate, you know, that's how I used to do it with my CM 600 and 900. Just designate a separate blade and put the high tack support sheet on. Right, let's get going. I'm going to flip you over to the ScanNCut machine, which has now gone to sleep because I've been sat here waffling away. So I'm going to load the mat into the machine, and I've just realised that the light has suddenly started going darker. So I'm just going to put all my big lights on. So just bear with me 1 minute. So we might get a little bit of glare on the screen now. So I'll try and just bring this down for a minute. So you should be able to see I've got the mat and I've got the fabric loaded. I'm taking out my standard auto cut blade and I'm just going to put in my fabric blade. So just give me 1 minute. So let me try and get rid of this glare. So I'm going to come to the basic shapes, so patterns, basic shapes, and I'm coming to the square. I'm going to make it 4 inches exactly, and I want 3. So I'm going to say, give me 3, and I'm going to say set. Now it's telling me there's not enough space on the mat, so what have I done wrong? There's more than enough space. 4 inches by 4 inches and 3. Okay, I'm going to say 2 for now. Don't know why it's saying that. And then I'm going to go add pattern, back to basic shapes, grab myself a square, make this one 4 inches, say 1 and set. Right, let me go back. Have I got something wrong in my settings? Let me go to the home button. Told you something, what could go wrong? Let's go in the settings. Let's go down. Oh, I know why, because I changed the cut area and I've not changed it back. Okay, so when I was doing something the other day, I changed the cut area so that something down here in the grey wouldn't cut, but what was up here would, and I've not changed the cut area back, so that's why. Okay, so that's the first problem solved. So let's say okay, okay, and we'll start again. Pattern, basic shapes, square. 4 inches and I want 3. Okay, so I've got 3 squares. Not sure how well. I'll try and zoom you in a little bit. Okay, I've got 3 squares on the mat. I've got the mat loaded into the machine with the fabric on it. Now I'm going to do a background scan so that I can scan this mat and then I can position the 3 squares on these 2 pieces of fabric. So I'm going to say, okay, just bring you down a little bit so you can just see this whizzing through. And let me see if I've missed any comments. Okay, I don't know if I've missed any comments, but hopefully somebody's on here from Makers, so I think they'll answer if I've missed anything, or once I've cut this and I come back to the other camera, if you ask me again, then I'll see if I can answer any questions for you. Okay, right, so let's come back to the screen. So now, I don't know how well you're going to see this. I'm going to go into the wrench and change the background to dark and say okay. So now, if I zoom in, you should be able to clearly see my 2 pieces of fabric. I'm going to grab one of the squares and just position it onto the yellow and grey. And then I'm going to get the other 2 and these should fit on here. Might be a little bit of a tight fit. I'm going to get into edit and zoom and just move them over, just so they're sat on here comfortably. So I've got 2 squares on the grey piece, and I've got one of the squares on the pattern piece. So I'm going to say OK, 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 go to select and go to cut. And now I'm just going to move the camera down so that you can see the blade cutting when I go to press the start button. So you should be able to see the green start button here. So I'm just going to move the camera down. Don't want to keep moving you back and forwards and making you sick, but I want you to be able to see, hopefully, that when I hit the start button now, it will start to cut these for me. Okay, and then just while I'm doing that, if anybody has got any questions, okay, I'm going to unload the mat. So I'm going to say, okay, that's finished. Unload the mat and bring you back to my overhead camera. I'm just going to put the blade away because I need to move my ScanNCut machine just out of the way so that I can sew this together. So I'm just going to say OK to delete all patterns. I know you can't see this, but I'm literally just closing my ScanNCut machine down and just moving it out of the way. So now I've got the 2 pieces of fabric. I'm just going to peel this away. Now, if you're using fabric that you know frays a lot, then what you could do before you put your fabric on your mat is maybe use some spray starch and iron it, and that might stop, you know, a lot of the fibres. This particular fabric that I've been using for the quilt along from Makers is fine, but sometimes some fabric, when you go to peel it off the fabric mat, with it being really sticky, it kind of frays all your fabric and you're left with all bits on your mat. But as I say, this is fine. But that's just a tip. You can use spray starch and iron your fabric before you put it on to your mat. So I'm just going to gently peel up these 3 pieces now. You can see hopefully how well that they've cut with the fabric blade. And then what I am going to do just before I start to show you how to assemble this, I'm going to just quickly put my iron on. And I'm also quickly just going to wipe this mat over. And with the fabric mat, I do this every time I cut fabric. Even if I was just going to be cutting more fabric, you know, in a few minutes, I would still do this. I wipe it with a wipe in between, and it just lifts up any of those little bits of frayed material that are stuck to the mat, and it makes it nice and clean. And I use the Huggies. I get no commission or anything for telling you about these. I use the Huggies Extra Care Pure, the 99% water. And the reason that I use these is they're nice and thick, and they don't, you can see like on this now, all the bits of fabric that it's picked up off the mat maybe. Hopefully, I'm not sure how well you'll see it, but they're nice and thick. They don't fray. Some of the cheaper wipes, when you start cleaning your mat, they start to kind of like pill up and bits come off on your mat, which is kind of just defeats the object. So I will put that on one side and let that dry. And once that's dry, will then put the protective sheet back on it. But for now, it's just going on my other desk out of the way. So are there any questions or anything before we go any further? So Sandra's saying was just going to ask about cleaning. Okay, so that's answered that. So that's brilliant. I'm just waiting for my iron to heat up. So I'm just going to bring in, this is my Cricut little easy press mat rather than me having to set up my little ironing board. So basically what you want to do now, you've got the two pieces that are your front and your back, and then whichever piece is going to be your corner, you just need to fold these wrong sides together and give it a press. So I'm just going to give it a quick press with my finger, and then I'm just going to hit it with the iron. Right, let me just see. I've just seen something come up. I don't know if it's a question or a comment. So I was just going to ask about cleaning. I've got that one. Could you back the fabric with Bonder web or similar to be able to iron down for applique, or would you apply it after cutting? Jackie, if you're cutting your fabric for applique, then I would definitely put, I use heat and bond, but Bonder web or any kind of fusible backing, put onto the back of your fabric before you cut it for your applique. But I wouldn't use the fabric mat for bonded fabric. I would use the regular mat and the regular blade. Peel the paper backing off your Bonder web or heat and bond and put your bonded fabric onto a regular mat with the bonded side down to the mat. The fabric mat that I'm using tonight is meant to be really for thin, unbonded fabric. Okay, so either way, I wouldn't use bonded fabric on the fabric mat. The fabric mat is very sticky. So I hope that answers that question. So this is what we've got so far. So I'm going to take one of my pieces of back or front and put that right side facing up. I'm going to take my piece that I ironed into a triangle, and that's going to be positioned with the open edges to the top right corner. So like so. Okay. And then my other piece of fabric, that's going to go right side down. So we're basically making a sandwich of the three pieces of fabric. So Linda's saying finding it difficult to watch as the screen is freezing. So is anybody else having freezing issues? Because I'm actually watching it on my iPad and it's not freezing for me. So if you could just let me know. Maybe, Linda, if you go out of the live and then come back in, but we'll just wait and see. But as I say, I'm watching it on my iPad as well as, I'm recording and it's all fine for me. It's not freezing. Maybe it's your internet or maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, right, let me carry on. So what I am going to do though, in fact, I've got it. I'm just going to use a normal pen for this. So I've made my sandwich. I've got my one piece of fabric right side up. I've got my triangle with the open edges on the top and on the right hand side. So these are the open edges. This is the fold. And then I've got my other piece of fabric right side down. I'm going to sew this around all four sides, but we need to turn it inside out. So this is where the triangle is. So you want to leave an opening on the side where the triangle isn't. Okay, so this, where my hand is where my triangle is. So I'm going to leave my opening in here. So I'm just going to mark with a pen about, what's that? I don't know, maybe just under 2 inches. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to start sewing at one of the marks, sew a few stitches, come back, then I'm going to go all the way around, come round here, come to this back tack and leave this section open. So what I'm going to do now is switch on my sewing machine and move my camera. So if anybody has got any questions, if you can just ask them before I go any further. So everyone's saying it's all right. Can you use fabric blade with normal mats? I would only use your fabric blade with your fabric mat. If you're going to use your normal mat, you either need to use your regular standard blade or a blade that will go in your regular standard blade holder, and then put the high tack support sheet on it. Or if you're not using the high tack support sheet, if you're using bonded fabric, so fabric that's got something ironed onto the back of it, then don't use the high tack support sheet, because basically the high tack support sheet turns a regular mat into kind of a fabric mat. So I would never put fabric that's got anything bonded on the back of it onto my fabric mat or a mat with the high tack support sheet. I hope that makes sense. So I've just seen now that Carol is asking, am I going to use a 1/4 inch seam? Yes, I am, but one of the reasons that I made this bigger one, let me just scoot this one over that I'm going to sew. So right at the beginning, I said to you, this was the one that was cut at 4 by 4. And then I said I cut one at 4.5 by 4.5. And the reason that I did this one was to try just using my needle just set in its regular middle position and using the outside of the foot on the fabric. So with this one, I just placed my foot to the edge of this fabric and I left the needle in its middle position. So whatever that is set at on your machine, I think, it's about 3/8, I think, something like that, a normal needle position. So, but for this one tonight, I'm going to do the same as the original one and I'm going to use 1/4 inch, okay? Even if you cut your fabric at 4 by 4 and you don't use 1/4 inch, it will just make this a bit smaller. So, just try it and see. Right, I'm just going to bring in a couple of clips just to hold this together. So you could pin it, you don't have to pin it, it's entirely up to you. I like these wonder clips. I'm just going to put a couple of little wonder clips on it just to hold it in place, ready for me to start sewing. So has anybody got any other questions before we go any further? Right, I'm just going to flip you over to the sewing machine, so I may not be able to see questions for a few minutes while I'm just doing this sewing part of it. Okay, so I'm just kind of literally trying to home in on the needle. So I'm going to put this in, lift the foot, and I'm going to come to this mark down here. I'm going to line the foot up with the edge of my fabric and line the needle up to where I can see, or as near as I can, to that pen mark. I know you can't see because my hands are in the way, but basically the pen mark is somewhere in here, just under the needle, and I'm going to line the fabric up to the end of this side of the presser foot, and I'm just going to pop that down. And then on my machine, I'm just going to go into the sewing element and I'm just going to move the needle over so it's at a 1/4 inch, which I just need to remember where it is on this new machine. I think it's that one. So I'm set now at a 1/4 inch. What you could do if you wanted to do is maybe, draw a line with a pen or just eyeball it. It's not vital. It will just mean if you leave your needle in the middle position, it will just basically mean that your bookmark will be ever so slightly smaller on the finished side. So that's me hopefully in the right place. So I'm just going to start sewing, do a couple of back tack stitches, and then carry on sewing down to the end, lift and turn, trying to do this without getting my hands and everything in the way. I'm really sorry. See if I can move you around a little bit more. Okay, and then keep going round. Take my clips out as I go. And if you're new to sewing and you're a beginner, just take it nice and slow. I mean, there's nothing to be scared of. Take my clips out. So you can see maybe my other little mark here. So I'm just going to pivot, put the foot down. I'm going to sew to that marker as close as I can get to it, do a couple of back tack stitches, and then it's nearly done. Okay, so I'm just going to cut my thread, take this out of the machine. I'm just going to bring you back to the other camera. So see how super simple that was. I'm just going to put my little wonder clips away. So a little tip here is, let me just find my fabric scissors and see if I can zoom you in. Okay, so this was how I started off. Sorry, let me get this back in shot. So this was how I started off. This was where my corner piece of fabric was. These are the two little pen marks I made, and then I basically started sewing, came all the way around and finished here. I'm just going to cut that thread. So what I would do now is just trim the corners, but you want to get as close to your stitching as you can, but obviously you don't want to cut your stitching. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off the corners on all four corners. It just takes a little bit of the bulk away for when you turn it right side out. Okay, so that's that. And then one other little tip that sometimes helps, on the edge where you've left it open, so this is the open edge here, if you get that fabric and you fold it back and press it, because it's only tiny, remember, and I'm just going to bring my iron in. And I'm just going to press that seam back, turn it over, and then do the same on its opposite side. And when you've got small seams like this, when you're only using like 1/4 inch seams, and you're going to be turning something, you know, right side out. Let me just get that iron out of the way before I burn myself. It just makes it a little bit easier for when we come to top stitch this. So let me just zoom back out again, because that's a bit too close now, isn't it? So basically what I'm going to do now, I'm leaving the other seams as they are with the stitch line here. This is the one that was open here, and I've just literally folded them back and pressed them, and it's only for when I flip it in a minute. It just makes it a little bit neater. Right, so now I'm just going to put my hand inside. So I've just seen somebody say, don't apologise, lovely automatic measurement, and someone saying good tip, great tip. Okay, so I'm just going to push my fingers inside here now and grab a corner and start to pull it out through this little tiny hole. It will come out, don't worry about, as long as you've done your back tack at the start and the stop, you shouldn't rip your stitches. And just take your time and pull it all through, you know, and it's a bit of push and pull kind of thing, you know, and get in there. Now let me just find my, this is an old, I think it's Pergamano, it says on it. I've never done Pergamano in my life, but I don't know where I've got this from, but it's an old ball tool, but it's got a really fat ball tool end, and I use this a lot for turning fabric. So I'm just going to put this in the hole and push out my corners. Okay, obviously, you know, you can fiddle about with it as much as you want. See that I need to push all this out here. Let me just zoom you out a little bit more. That's better. So just go in where the opening is and push out all your corners. And if I just put this down flat, let me move all the bits of, so can you see here now, this is where the opening is. And because I pressed those seams before I turned it, it just makes it a little bit neater. Especially when you're using tiny seams and a small opening. I sometimes find that when you're using a small seam allowance like this on a very small opening, that once you get this opening here, your fabric's kind of all wrinkled and creased, you know, from like the flipping. So if you do it this way, it just makes it a little bit easier. And then if I just flatten that out, you can see now, because I pressed that already, it's giving us a nice, neat finish. So what we need to do now, we need to seal up this hole. So I'm going to top stitch close to the edge all the way around. That will seal up the gap and obviously just reinforce these edges and just give it a little bit of a decorative finish. I'm just going to do it in a plain straight stitch, but you could use, you know, a pattern, anything. And I've just seen Sue say you could use your ScanNCut stylus. You can definitely, for using it as a pokey out tool. Most definitely, yes, you can. I have done that in the past. So, but this is the thing that I just keep handy in my drawer, and I just keep it, you know, to the side of me. So I'm just going to give this another little, very quick press. And I'm just going to go back to the sewing machine and top stitch around it. So let's flip cameras. Oh, just need to move round. So for this one, I'm just going to put the, I'm going to start, let me see, I'm going to start on the side where the opening is. So the opening is here, okay? I'm just going to put the foot down and I'm going to move my needle over. But you could leave it, you know, it's entirely up to you, but you want to stitch fairly close, because obviously you've only got a 1/4 inch piece of fabric inside here, and you obviously want to stitch it closed. So let me just go back to a regular straight stitch, and I'm just going to move my needle over as far as it will go, and I'm lining the fabric up with the end of my presser foot just to make it easier. So I'm hoping that you can see that. Okay, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around. I'm not going to do a start and stop with this. I'm literally going to start, sew all the way around, and then I'll overlap by a couple of stitches when I get back to my start position. So that'll lock the stitches in place. So just follow the edge of the fabric, get quite close to the end. And where you've got this triangle, obviously you've got extra bulk, so just be careful when you're starting off. I'm just going to put the foot down. What I tend to do is, because I'm not sure how well you'll see it, but the foot is raising up a little bit. So when I start off, I tend to always sew with my machine on fairly slow anyway, but I kind of keep my fingers out of the way, but I help the fabric through just in that initial bit there where the bulk is. Okay, so I'm nearly back round. So I'm just going to come back round. You can, there's this piece of thread hanging out the side here is where I started. So I'm just going to overlap by, you know, maybe 2 or 3 stitches, and that will kind of lock it in place. And that's it. So I'm just going to clip my threads. Got bits of thread all over the place. I've only got a tiny little project. I don't know, I can end up with all these bits of thread everywhere, but Anyway, so let's move that out. In fact, let's just give it another quick press. So let's move everything out of the way. I'm just going to unplug my iron to let it cool down. So let me zoom you in. So there is your little fabric bookmark. So I'm not sure how well you'll see it, but on the first one I did a little decorative stitch. Can you see? My camera angles are not that great. So here I did a decorative stitch on the corner piece before I sewed it all together. This one that I told you I did that was 4.5 by 4.5, I didn't do anything. And obviously I've done the same tonight. I've not put any decorative stitch or anything on it. So that's your fabric bookmark. So I've got 3 there. So for any of you that are on the live here on Facebook tonight, if you're in the UK, if you leave a comment to say that you've shared the video and that you share the video for Maker Superstore, we'll draw 3 names. And if you want one of these and you're happy for me to have your address, we'll draw 3 names and I'll send each one of you one of these. Okay. So let's just see, are there any questions before we go any further? Because I want to show you how to make it in paper as well now. These are great, as I say, great stash busters, great for, you know, if you want little gifts to give to people. You know, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you want to give somebody a little gift, make them a handmade card, put them a little bookmark in it. What I would do is probably get something like, you know, those paper cubes, tuck a piece of paper in it so they know it's kind of like a bookmark, and you could write on the paper bookmark, just in case anybody doesn't know what it is. Let's see. So somebody's saying they did the exact same stitch last night. Love it, first time I've seen a live. Oh, lovely, Rose, thank you. Carol's saying sharing to friends. Yeah, anybody that shares it, please share the, you know, make us this live stream on Facebook, but say in the comments that you've shared it, and then maybe somebody from Makers can just choose 3 names at random. And if you're happy to give Makers your address that they can pass on to me, I will be more than happy to send each one of you one of these. It has to be in the UK though, I'm afraid. It's really, really expensive to start sending things out of the country at the moment. So that's that. Rosie's saying sharing, Sue's saying very nice idea. Let me just put my paper, scissors and things away. Thanks, we'll have a go as I'm still learning how to use my CM600. Okay, well, Leslie, if you're using a CM600, you need to use the high-tack support sheet onto, I would put it on an old mat, because once you put one of those high-tack support sheets onto a mat, it's a devil of a job to get it off. So either buy yourself, you know, a standard or low tack mat and put the high tack support sheet and just designate that as fabric, or if you've got an old mat, put your high tack support sheet on an old mat. Use your standard blade, but again, I would buy a blade and keep it specifically for fabric, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to make this. It's just a simple 4-inch square, you know, ×3, easy. Right, let me go back because I don't know if I'm missing any comments or anything. Handy for using up leftover Christmas fabric. Great head start on Christmas. So yeah, definitely in, you know, hopefully we're going to be starting coming out of lockdown and we'll be able to, you know, start socializing more. If you do craft fairs or if you run workshops, it's a great little project for, you know, quick and easy, simple project. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could sew this by hand, but obviously you'd need to be a really neat sewer. I don't do hand sewing, I'm really sorry, so that's why it's a sewing project. Right, let me just see if there's anything else that anyone's asking me before we go any further. So that's your fabric project, fabric bookmark for tonight. Now I'm going to show you how to make it in paper. So same principle, you need to start off with a square. Doesn't matter what size, whatever size square you choose will determine the finished size of your project, okay? So this is a piece of 6x6. This is some old Stampin' Up double-sided paper. Double-sided paper works best for this because obviously you see the pattern on the corner and then you'll see a pattern on the inside when it's not in your book. So double-sided does work best, but you can use single-sided as well. It doesn't really matter. So Carol's saying, sent to friends who stitch with me at our local fabric shop, the Little Shop of Fabrics. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm sure they've probably got loads of scraps. Shared to my sewing friend and my work colleague of 30 years. Oh, that's nice. So again, this one was made with a piece of 6x6 and the finished size is 3x3. Okay, so whatever size you start off with, it needs to be a square and that will determine the size of your bookmark. I don't think I'd go any smaller than maybe 5x5. But if you've got 6x6 or if you're a scrapbooker and you've got 12x12, just chop it down into 4 and you could make 4 bookmarks. So just give me 1 minute. Okay, so I've got flowers on one side and I've got polka dots on the other. I'm just trying to remember how I did it now. Here we go. First of all, you're going to fold corner to corner. So you're going to make like a triangle. And the more accurate you can be here, the better results you'll get. I just need to find my bone folder. Just bear with me 1 minute. So I've got a square 6x6. I'm folding corner to corner and I'm just going to crease it with my bone folder. And if you don't have a bone folder, maybe use an old credit card or something like that. You need to get your creases really nice and crisp. That will give you the best result. So Veronica's saying, thank you. I've been a little afraid to use my SDX 900. You made things look so simple. Thanks so much. Oh, you're welcome, Veronica. That's what we're here for. A decent weight paper / card. Right, I wouldn't use card. Card will be too thick. So definitely paper. Now, Stampin' Up's Designer Series paper, or DSP as we call it, I think is about 180 grams, something like that. But if you've got like cardstock, like for instance, card that I would make my base cards from is about 240 GSM. I wouldn't use that for this. It'll be too difficult to fold. So we've got a square, we've folded it on the diagonal. Now I'm going to bring up one of the outside edges. This is the open edge at the top. I'm going to bring up one of the outside edges and line the point up, this outside point with this point here. Okay, so again, as neat as you can get this, the better. And again, burnish it down. Then I'm just going to open that out of the way and do the same on the opposite corner. So I've got outside corner coming to open edge. So what you're trying to do basically is get the points to line up and get this as a nice level, all nice and level. So that's what you've got now. Yeah? Did somebody say they're doing it along with me? Can't remember. I've just seen somebody say doing it now. So now you open this out. You bring, let me remember how to do this. You bring the top point to the middle here, where this gap is between the two outside edges. So you're folding this down now. So point to fold, basically. So that's what you've got now. Then you're going to bring this in and you're going to fold it in. And this is why I was saying I wouldn't use card. So you're just going to bring this in and you're going to tuck this. So you want a fold along here, which is going to come over here. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Hi, Anna. So I'm going to tuck that in, push it in so it all lines up and just go over it again with the bone folder. That's what we've got now. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to bring this one in. You probably will have a little gap in the middle, and that's just purely and simply because of all the layers, because effectively you've got 2 layers here and then you've got 2 layers here that you're trying to tuck this into. So it probably won't meet absolutely perfectly. You might be able to see it better on this one. Can you see there's a hair of a gap? But again, that will be determined by how thick your paper is. What's Anna saying? Getting my hair done finally, but watching at the same time. Gorgeous, mate. Oh, thanks, Anna. I got my hair cut. I got it cut for the first time in, well, I think since last June, about 2 weeks ago. And then I went back last Friday and I've had it kind of slightly coloured just to cover up some of my grey. And then, okay, so we're going to tuck this one in now. So again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tuck it inside, and you want to line it up with this inside fold. So I'll trying to do this, but be able to show you at the same time, and then flatten it out. And as I said, because it's double-sided paper, it will be quite substantial, so it's not a flimsy make. Let me try and zoom you in a little bit more. So that's the one I made the other day. That's the one I've just made. Let me get my little book again, or my big book. And then again, same thing. You just slide this into your corner. Let me zoom out ever so slightly. Okay, and then that just marks your page. Getting my greys covered right now, Anna's saying. So that's tonight's project. So is everybody okay with that, or do you want me to go over the folding again? And I'm just going to have a quick drink of my juice. Made monster faces when we made these at GB, somebody's saying. Just trying to see if I've missed any comments. So I need to, as I say, just apologise if I have missed any comments, because obviously, you know, I've got like literally 3 cameras on the go here, and I'm trying to not make a mess or make a mistake like I usually do in my normal Sunday night lives, and I'm trying to obviously keep up with what's going on. Marissa's saying I've embraced the white. Yeah, well, my hair is a light brown, but it bleaches blonde with the sun, and then I had grey, so I literally had like 3 shades in my hair. And I just decided I'm just going to try and get some of it covered up. I've not had an all over colour. I've had those foils put in, so there's still a little bit of grey in there, but it's gone more to like blended in with my normal colour now, which is nice. So simple but so lovely. Thanks so much for taking the time to share with us. Are you welcome? Don't cover your grey, let it rock. Veronica's saying. I'm all white now too. Oh dear, bless us all. I don't know. So yeah, is everybody okay with the paper one? Does anybody want me to just unfold it and do it again to show you? Obviously, you know, here's the fabric ones. Now I did see, let me just see, somebody at Makers has drawn some names. So we've got, so for anybody that wants the fabric bookmarks, let me just zoom back out a little bit. We've got Marissa Russell, Carol Summerton, and Sue Slemmings. You've been chosen by Makers Superstore for one of my fabric bookmarks. So what I'll do, I'll make a paper one as well, and I'll send each one of you a paper and a fabric bookmark as my little thank you for being here with us tonight. So if Marissa Russell, Carol Summerton, and Sue Slemmings could contact Makers Superstore, you know, maybe, I don't know, Monday or something like that, give them your addresses and they can pass them on to me, and I'll get these in the post to you next week. This could be my first fabric mate. Love these. Well done, Anna. Give it a go. Thanks, Ashley. Love this. And Brill Prezi idea. Thank you for sharing with us. Can't wait for the next one. Okay, so I think everybody seems to be okay. I don't know if there are any other last minute questions or not. So makers are saying, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if any of you make these, please share them. Yeah. Tag me on Instagram at AppleLover53 as well if you use Instagram. Send them to Makers Superstore. They can probably put them on their blog or something for you. So we've got Sue Slemmings has said, oh, thank you so much. Congratulations to the winners. Contact us with your addresses, team at Makers Retail. There you go. So team at makersretail.co.uk. So the three ladies mentioned. If you contact Makers, give them your address, they can pass them on to me and I'll get them sent out next week for you. So Sarah is saying, maybe I need to do some fabric. Thanks for a great session. What accessories do I need for the CM600 for fabric? Okay, Fiona, so obviously you need some fabric. You need a blade that I would designate as a fabric blade. So just get yourself a separate standard blade. You can still use your standard blade holder, but take the blade out that you normally use for other things and just buy a separate blade, and then get yourself the high-tack support sheet and apply it to an old mat. Or if you've not got an old mat, buy yourself another mat and use the high-tack support sheet. So for anybody with a CM model, that's what you need to do. For anybody with a DX or SDX, so in other words, an auto blade machine, you can use the fabric mat and the fabric blade that I showed tonight. It doesn't have to be the 2200 Disney machine. If you've got, you know, as long as it's a machine with the auto blade technology, you can buy the fabric mat and the fabric blade and you can follow my tutorial. Okay, am I missing comments? Things are flashing up before my eyes ever so quickly. Well done, girls. Great idea. Ashley, tutorial fab as usual. Thanks for your time. You're welcome, Lynn. Oh, hi, Lynn. You're welcome. Bye and thanks again. Hope to watch more again. And Joanne's saying thank you. Right, so I've been on exactly 1 hour. So that's nice timing, isn't it? So a bookmark and a paper project all for tonight. So I'm going to say, I can't see anything popping up, so I'm going to say again, thank you to Makers for asking me to host one of their Mayors for Making projects. Thank you to everybody for being here. Share the video for Makers and everybody. If I can, I'm not sure if I can do this or not, but if I can also put this onto my YouTube channel, I'll put it in the live playlist. So if anybody did miss it and you've told your friends, they can go and look for it there, but I'm sure it'll probably stay on the Makers Facebook page as well. Right, so Sue's saying, thanks, Ashley, enjoyed it. Thanks so much. You're welcome. Yeah, so have a lovely weekend, everybody, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, take care, and anybody that normally joins me on YouTube on a Sunday night at 5, I'm hoping to be live again this weekend, so you can all come and have a chat to me there. So I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to end this now, and I'll speak to you all very soon.